Good morning and welcome to the CWLOA 2019 Focal Points, Mechanics, and Protocols Review. This PowerPoint, in addition to the NCAA rules PowerPoint, are your requirements for the 2019 season. In addition, as you know, you must take the test on the Arbiter site or the CWLOA site. At the convention this past weekend, we discussed the CWLOA focal points, mechanics, protocols, the NCAA 1 rules change, and that is what we're reviewing with you today. In early February, you will have access to resources on the new website and should go there to download and print the handbook. Carry the handbook with the rules book this season. The handbook is a project being completed by Kathy Russo, and we'll have all updated mechanics, protocols, and memos so that all officials are carrying the same information with them to each game. As you know, the game continues to change, and we must continue to adapt to the game. And that's what this PowerPoint and these focal points are about, adapting to the game. Think about this. We're always trying to figure out ways to put officials in better positions to be successful on the field across Division 1, 2, and 3 and NAIA games. Regardless of your region, regardless of your rating, these focal points apply to you. Take a look at this illustration where no whistle and no foul was administered. You must take a look at this illustration and recognize this must be managed and whistled and appropriately carded in every game across every region, across every division. There is no game in which this is not a card. This photo as well shows you a blue player fouling a player up the back toward the head and neck area. The parts of the body that we must protect are the head, back, neck, and shoulders of a player. This foul must be whistled and carded as well across all divisions and all regions as we go out to referee the 2019 women's lacrosse season. The key focal points for this season were gathered through a variety of data last season through about 200 game observations, the NCAA rules survey, discussions with the rules committee, with coaches, and with officials. We're going to get into each of these concepts point by point, and the first one is the draw. There are no changes to the draw. What we'd like to highlight is once the C official sets the draw sticks and the hands of the players, she must keep her eyes on those sticks and those hands as she backs out of the draw circle. When A and B are being questioned by coaches about the hands or the ball or the sticks moving, they must respond to the coaches and not ignore. And some responses you can use: coach, the A and B official are looking at the circle and the restraining line. The C official is looking at the draw sticks and the hands. It is really important not to turn away from those stick and hands so that we can identify if players are moving their hands or the sticks after they are set. As you know, the draw is the most important part of the game, or one of the most important parts of the game. So we must keep our eyes and zoom in this area if we're the official. There's also a huge interest in looking at the timing and the time allotted for women's games. This interest is certainly from the officials, the coaches, administrators, and players. And so for the 2019 collegiate lacrosse season, we want to look at all game stoppages and all stop clock situations, such as stick checks, 8-meter free position setups, and other stop clock situations to see if we can be more efficient in starting the play. One thing that will help us is now that we're not holding subs up, subs are freely coming in, you can get those rolling in, an official can get those rolling in after a goal, and whoever's closest to the stick should go check the stick and get that done efficiently and quickly so that we can get our count of players on the field and then set up the draw to get that going more quickly. A new concept is the TV media angle. This is a situational movement of officials. The situation is when the ball is transitioning out of the 8-meter toward the table sideline and up the field between the 30-yard lines. The situation that needs to be managed better and more consistently are these big cardable fouls in transition between the 30-yard lines close to the table sideline. Those illustrations you saw earlier in the PowerPoint are fouls that occurred in that area. In order to do so, we know A and B are transitioning up the field and that there's often a gap between them and that they can't get any wider. So our movement is now focusing on bringing the C official in toward the middle of the field to better manage these fouls and to be in a position to be more successful. This allows an official to see through the space just like the TV media angle sees through the space. Again, this is to better manage big, cardable midfield fouls, especially those fouls that are near the head, neck, back, or shoulder area. If you did not hear me during the videos, those videos are illustrations of the big, cardable midfield fouls that must be managed appropriately and consistently. Last season, those were managed much better at the Division I level and fairly inconsistently at the Division II and III level. We must get better at managing, and again, that media angle, moving the C official in toward the middle, will provide us some support in terms of putting the officials in a place to be successful on the field. So card those as accordingly. Thank you. In this video, you see an excellent red card being given. The official is the lead official, obviously the lead B official. The ball's transitioning out, and there is a big foul up toward the head and neck of a player directly in that area, and the official administers the red card. That is an excellent card, and when we say red card, everybody knows that a red card, you go with your gut. If you're not sure if it's a red or a yellow card, it's mostly likely not a red card. In this situation, it was an excellent red card. In this video situation, you see a big foul, restraining order, a similar foul. And you see the official moving, the trail official is being supportive, the trail official is communicating with players and the coach, while the lead official went over and administered the red card. You also saw the C official move in to support her pro. This is an example of a big foul toward the head, neck, and shoulders between the 30s near the table in the middle of A and B as they transition up the field. You'll see this foul in slow motion. You see the player take her stick directly at the player's face. This should always be a red card. It is difficult if C is all the way across the field to administer the proper card. So the TV media angle will move that C official in closer so that we may identify this card and see what the TV angle sees, which is through the space of the foul. This illustration shows you the ball getting ready to transition out of the 8-meter. The ball is coming out of the 8 and is going toward the table sideline, and the ball is going to be between the B official, the old lead, and the A official, the old deep trail. She's going down the field. This gap between the players, where no one can see through the space, is why we're adjusting C toward the middle of the field, as you can see in the diagram. These lines illustrate what the TV media angle sees. The TV sees through that space. Now we're allowing C to move in this situation, when the ball's on that side of the field, to see through the space to better manage those big cardable fouls, especially toward the head, neck, and shoulders. Here you see an illustration of the player going up the table sideline, coming over the restraining line, and this is where you would see C move toward the middle of the field. If the ball transitions away from that sideline, C would go wide on her side. She would get out of the way of the ball and the players. This is another illustration of a big cardable midfield foul, where C would have positioned herself toward the middle of the field to better be able to manage this dangerous foul. Here you see the C official has moved in and is setting up the play and getting a little bit ahead of the play to go with it. The next focal point is flopping. Flopping is not a foul, it's a concept. Flopping is a player putting herself through the air and onto the ground without having been pushed by a player's stick or body. This can be offensive or defensive flopping. And so we're encouraging all officials, especially trail officials, when it's down near the goal circle, to zoom in on the shooter and the defenders involved in the play. We have to zoom in on a player's stick and body so that we can determine if the offensive player falls on her own or if she is pushed by a defender's stick or body. So this is just zooming in. Some questions you can ask yourself: did she leave her feet on her own? Did I notice her momentum? Is she pushed by a defender's stick? Did a defender's body push her? And if it's a defender, did the attacker make contact and cause her to fall to the ground? If a player puts herself through the air and on the ground, it is not a foul, but what's very important for officials is we should not call a foul on a defensive player if an attacker puts herself to the ground. So these illustrations get you thinking about a player's momentum. One of the things with flopping is notice a player's momentum. Notice her speed as she runs toward the goal circle. Notice her balance. Is she off balance on her own, or is someone pushing her with a stick or body? This player's momentum is taking her to the ground. This player's momentum is taking her to the ground. So for us as officials, we need to zoom in on the sticks and the bodies of the associated players and notice the ball handler's momentum. This is another picture of an attacker running into a defender whose stance is wide, but stance is still. She's holding her space. She's done nothing illegal with her stick, and the attacker is running into her body. So notice players' momentum as it relates to defensive players holding their positioning. Here's another illustration of a player's momentum taking into a defensive body and the defender holding her space and not doing anything illegal with her stick. Another focal point is a concept, not a foul, and that is targeting. Targeting is when one or more players gets fouled repeatedly by many kind of fouls throughout the game. This is often the best player on a team. The fouls may happen on or off the ball. It's not a rule, but we're trying to build awareness of officials about this concept. The first thing is to notice it. If number 22 is being pushed or hit with a stick or displaced or fouled, safety fouls around the head, neck, and shoulders, as we've discussed, or up the back, we need to protect that player. So the first thing is to notice it. The second thing is to communicate it to your officiating crew. Be preventative. Speak to the captains, but notice this and protect players. We must communicate this across our officiating crew. Also, a coach may bring this to officials' attention. So again, targeting, it's not in the rule book, it's not a foul, but we need to recognize, communicate, and manage it if a player, the same player, is being fouled repeatedly during a game.
Shooting space must be called correctly and consistently. To that end, we are focused on being in position and when A, B, or C, lead or trail, is in good position to see shooting space, they must make the call. In the critical scoring area, the trails, A, B, deep trail, and C, must cover the middle and adjust to the positioning of the ball carrier or receiver of a pass who has an opportunity to shoot and is looking to shoot. Her hands are free from the defender, and she is looking and has the opportunity when her hands are free. At that point, we must be focused on the ball, not the shooter's body. We must recognize that shooting space is defined and looks like a cone from the ball to either side outside edges of the goal circle. We must recognize double teams that may only momentarily deny the opportunity for the shooter. One quick dodge and the shooter can be free. We must recognize the backer who has not successfully gotten into position to mark the shooter. We must recognize the low defender who is not legally marking one of the shooter's teammates. We must recognize the defender who is marking one of the shooter's teammates directly behind who is not exempt from shooting space. We must recognize the defender whose illegal 3 seconds positioning has now led her to be in shooting space. We must recognize the defender who is moving through the goal circle to pick up the shooter and is in shooting space. This diagram shows a typical ABC triangle with B trail too wide to see spaces between the players. If B moves toward the middle, there is now a better triangle with a more effective B position, able to see spaces and able to see layers. Note the low defender, blue, is in shooting space after red has successfully dodged her defender. This must be called. This slide shows the backer defense in a zone defense. The backer, who is highlighted with a blue B on the red dot, follows the ball and is there to help her teammate who may lose her mark in her area. If she does not step up quickly enough, she gets caught in shooting space. Note the backer, as she moves to follow the ball, can also be in 3 seconds as she is not marking anyone within a stick's length. As we look at trail positioning, we notice that we've identified where the ball is in the yellow circle. The red arrow is the angle from which the trail official is looking when wide and out by the restraining line. This is a thumbs down emoji and represents the positioning as too wide for the trail. In closing the gap between the trail and C and covering the middle, we have a thumbs up emoji that represents the best offset positioning so the trail can better see between players, can see the low defender who is now highlighted in yellow. The trail official has successfully closed the gap, is in a better position to see between players and see the layers. Another view of trail positioning, adjusting to better see spaces between players and the layers from the top, the 12-meter, down to the 8-meter arc, the middle of the 8-meter arc, and the low defenders near the goal circle. As a trail official moves toward the middle of the field, she can better see each of these positions. the ball carrier at the top of the 8, the defender in the middle of the 8, and 2 defenders closer to the goal circle. Delay of game, false starts by defenders applies only in this case to 8-meter free positions. This is a new concept. The first false start by the defender on an 8-meter free position, whether it be the defender beside or behind jumping before the whistle, or a defender moving into the restricted area after the free position is set and before play is restarted by the lead official, result in a free position as a result of a false start. The official calls timeout, is issuing a verbal warning, puts the offender behind. There will now be 2 defenders or offenders behind before restarting play. These verbal warnings would continue at this level for the remainder of the game. Once we reach the green card level, or another false start during the same stoppage of play, for example, white number 32 has a free position on the 8-meter arc following a 3-second foul by a blue defender. Blue defense false starts. We now have 2 blue defenders behind number 32 and a verbal warning on blue. While number 32 has a free position and before she is able to play, blue false starts again and we now have a green card. This green card is on blue and we must have proper communication to all. The proper communication requires the nearest official communicate to the coaches, the table, and the team that is being carded that all subsequent false starts will result in a green card on 8-meter free positions. This does not apply to false starts anywhere else on the field. These are in regards to 8-meter free positions. The 8-meter mechanics in this critical scoring area, when a foul occurs, that requires an 8-meter arc free position. The official will whistle and signal timeout. It is natural for the lead official to move to manage the proper positioning of players on the 8-meter arc. Be aware of the building of a wall along the 8-meter arc line away from the free position. This would be a good place for C to help out. Be aware not to position yourself as lead between the ball in the free position and the goalkeeper who is preparing for the free position. The trail and C must move in to assist, tighten the umpire triangle, and manage the restricted areas, the box and the 8-meter arc. When you are ready to resume play, with your hand down, the lead moves to an appropriate position to start play. At this time, when the official has assumed the start play position, there's no player movement into the 8-meter arc or the restricted area. This must be vigilantly watched by the trail and the C. The lead official shall check in with their partners, raise your arm, blow your whistle, drop your arm, and this will restart play. This slide represents concepts that we discussed, and we are building awareness for officials. The backer D, what is it? What to look for? Remember that the backer defender is the person who is following the ball wherever it may be, and often she will get caught in 3 seconds, unable to be marking someone within a stick's length, and sometimes shooting space because she hasn't been able to step up to the ball carrier in a timely manner to avoid a shooting space call. Targeting of players is not a foul. We are simply talking about building an awareness. What does targeting look like, and how important it is to communicate with your partners about when you think or suspect the targeting may be going on. Flopping of players, whether it be attack, particularly the shooter, or defense, is not a foul. Again, we are building awareness of what flopping looks like. How did the player get to the ground? Was she put there by another player, or did she put herself there? The wall, first and foremost, it is not a foul to have a wall. It is a strategy being incorporated by many teams. Note that the first player to assume a legal position that is not in the restricted area will stay at the base of the wall, whether she is the attack or the defense. If she is not in a legal position, she is in an illegal position that is in the restricted area, as the official, you will be managing that by asking that player to leave that illegal position. The C official can certainly help the lead with this, and we want to make sure that we are penalizing players who are committing fouls by holding, pushing, detaining when they are part of the wall. Show up and do the work. Keep showing up and doing the work. You are doing great work, and we thank you for all that you do. It's all the little details that are vital. Little things make big things happen, which you are making happen on a daily basis. If you have any questions or want to get in touch with us, our email addresses are listed here, and we welcome your comments, questions, concerns.